Okay, let's talk about the other big corporate story of the morning. Amazon planning to now challenge the Pentagon's decision to award a $10 billion cloud computing contract to Microsoft. Amazon contending that politics has played a role in part in that award. Notably, President Trump is a longtime critic, of course, of Amazon and its founder, Jeff Bezos. Joining us right now for more on this story is Washington Post reporter Aaron Gregg. We should mention, of course, the Washington Post is owned by Amazon chairman and CEO Jeff Bezos. Good morning to you. The big question.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. I think the big question here is just how political this is going to get, and to the extent that there is now going to be a lawsuit, what kind of discovery could or could not happen. We talked earlier in the show about this book by Mattis's speechwriter, who talked about how President Trump actually called the president at one point and said, how do we basically screw Amazon with this contract? Now,
President Trump called who?
President Trump called Mattis.
You say President Trump called the president.
I'm sorry, President Trump. Yeah, would. President Trump called Mattis.
He might do stuff like that. So he says Trump says this and Trump says that.
How do we screw Amazon out of this contract? At the time, Mattis said, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this all above board, and it's going to have nothing to do with that. But by default, it feels like this whole thing has been politicized. Aaron, take us through the next steps of what could or could not happen.
That's right. So what's happened here is Amazon has really waded headfirst into what promises to be a highly politicized lawsuit. If you cover government contracting or follow it at all, you see bid protests all the time. It's almost a fiduciary responsibility to protest when you lose. But they usually focus on some minor technicality of how the government handled the procurement. In this case, Amazon is really going for the jugular. They're saying there was political influence and clear bias in how DOD handled the contract. That not only puts them in a head-on fight with the Pentagon, but also with President Trump.
And so the other question, and it was really Joe's question.
It was from Aaron's piece. Aaron, you highlight all the other things that have been going on for the past 13 months, whether it's Oracle or whether it's the revolving door criticism or whether it's IBM or whether it's the whole idea of going to a single contractor instead of leaving it split up. My point was that the president is going to have cover to say that wasn't what this is. This is fully makes sense. Microsoft is now going to be certification 6 or whatever it is. They're going to have the highest level. They've had a chance to get their act together. And it's easy to just say Microsoft deserves it at this point, to get out of the criticism that it's a revolving door, incestuous relationship between Amazon and the Department of Defense.
I think it's easier to say that Microsoft is a legitimate player for this contract now than it was a year ago. But even when you ask people who are very against Amazon, they will tell you that Amazon Web Services is the clear market leader in cloud computing.
Right.
So it was still seen as quite a surprise. But yes, it'll be very interesting to see what comes out in discovery here.
And that's the other question. I mean, sort of how long? I mean, why? The other question was why not go to the GAO, right?
Yeah, why not go to the GAO and stop it? Stop it in its tracks.
In its tracks, as opposed to go to court. I made the argument. I imagine that there's a view that the GAO may not be fully independent.
Well, they don't have to get their act together immediately, right? Amazon. I mean, they can they have months to do this now instead of they'd have to have it ready right now, right?
That's right. When I said earlier that they've kind of gone for the jugular, that really is the case with with Court of Federal Claims. With GAO, it's kind of a closed-door process where you see what happens at the end, and it becomes a very scripted, bureaucratic process. Court of Federal Claims, we're going to see a slow drip of discovery as this thing rolls out for however long it goes on. With the Oracle lawsuit, which was in the Court of Federal Claims, that was very damaging for both the Pentagon and for Amazon because every time a new filing came out, you saw 10 news articles about it. It's clear that this is going to be a little bit of a sensation for quite some time.
Well, how far along will the implementation or the installation be by not stopping in its tracks? Can't Microsoft say
going to move ahead?
We're already done. We're halfway finished. I mean,
or does it stop work?
Reminded me of the AT&T Time Warner.
Can no work be done until it's finished? That's what I don't get either. How much would it slow down that entire process?
I don't know.
I think it's likely that they'll move forward ahead of time right now. But the other thing to remember is there are other contracts that haven't been quite as highly politicized. I bet Amazon is hoping that whatever other opportunities they have, whatever other irons in the fire, they can keep it much more quiet than this one.
Well, but that was my question. My question was, by going out there as publicly as they will or are, Does that change the dynamic for future contracts? Is this a little bit like, the manager of a baseball team running out onto the field and screaming at the ump, not because they think they're going to get the call reversed, but because they're hoping to get the next call?
It could be, but the other thing to remember is that Oracle has really been raging in the Court of Federal Claims for almost a year now. It's only a slight uptick in the amount of, vitriol that you've seen between the contractors and between DOD and the different contractors. This has been a charged thing for quite some time, bubbling up underneath the surface. It's just now, with President Trump's alleged involvement, it has really broken into a national and highly politicized fight between these three entities, DOD, the White House, and Amazon.